Kazakhstan'dan Salim, welcome to Inform You. In the modern world, the important thing in the Olympic Games is not to win, but to take part sounds naive and even ridiculous. Today, any athlete will tell you that at the Olympics there is only one medal gold and everything else is a consolation prize since only champions have a place in history. However, British Eddie Edwards wrote his name in history not with victory but with taking part, and not the most successful one. The athlete competed in sky jumping at the 1988 Games in Calgary, took last place but became a world celebrity. It's not known for certain who specifically inspired Edwards as a child, but from an early age he dreamed of a career as a professional athlete. Although the guy was destined to continue the family business and become a plasterer. Later he would devote some time to this work out of despair, but as a child Eddie was actively involved in sports. Like a true Englishman, he focused on football, but at the age of 10 he suffered a serious knee injury, due to which he was forced to give up training. A few years later, during a school trip to Italy, Edwards became interested in alpine skiing, and despite problems with his leg, he became interested in this sport, which is completely atypical for the UK. Eddie Edwards made the national team at the age of 17 and was close to taking part in the 1984 Winter Olympics. However, he failed the decisive selection and was left without the games. This meant that paying for training and fees, purchasing equipment, and all other expenses, without which a professional sports career is impossible, fell on Eddie himself. At this stage, many athletes' careers collapsed, but Eddie demonstrated heroic perseverance. He went to his father to work as a plasterer, worked part-time as a cleaner and dishwasher, but did everything, continued paying for the expensive training. His parents also helped him, but money was still sorely lacking. In 1986, Eddie made a strong-willed decision and moved to the USA. He settled in the village of Lake Placid, which hosted their 1932 and 1980 Winter Olympics. Everything that was needed for training fit compactly there, so Eddie could at least save on travel costs. One day, Edwards walked past a large jump for flying skiers. An idea that the first seemed crazy came to him. He decided to retire from alpine skiing and switch to sky jumping, as the sport had not represented Britain at the Olympics since 1924. There was only one thing left to do. I had to learn how to jump. True to circumstances immediately pointed to the dubiousness of the idea. Firstly, Eddie was about 10 kilograms heavier than their average sky jumper, and secondly, he had serious vision problems, because of which he wore a protective mask right over his huge glasses. But such little things did not stop the British, who was fired up with a new idea. Edwards realized that he could not master sky jumping on his own, so he turned to local junior coach John Wiscombe and Chuck Bearhorn, who was a sky jumper as an amateur athlete. At first, he shared his old equipment with Eddie because the British did not solve the money problem. After a couple of months of training, Edwards began making his first jumps from a 70-meter springboard. For a newcomer, the progress was crazy, but to realize the dream of going to the Olympics was still very far away. Eddie overcame his fear very quickly, but with the landing technique, everything was much more difficult. According to the athlete's recollections, in the first year and a half he hit his head 3 times, broke his jaw, collarbone and 3 ribs, damaged his kidney and knee. Despite everything, Edwards entered in 1987 World Sky Championships, which took place in Oberstdorf, Germany, where he took last place. However, something else was important during the competition. Eddie flew 73 3 and 5 meters, setting a British national record and fulfilling the Olympic standard. When I started competing, I was so insecure that I had to tie my helmet with rope. During one jump, the rope broke and my helmet went further than I did. I might have been the first sky jumper to ever beaten by his equipment, Eddie jokes. At the same time, British continued to travel to European tournaments. He traveled in his parents' old pickup truck. Sometimes he spent the night in it, and sometimes he lived in style, renting some of the cheapest possible housing. In Finland, for example, one of the local trainers, for a nominal fee, helped Eddie get an overnight stay in a psychiatric hospital that offered free beds, but the reward for all the hardships endured still found the hero. Teams of Great Britain included Edwards in the squad for the 1988 Olympics in Calgary. On the eve of the start, the media unearthed details of the biography of the British sky jumper, and the BBC channel interviewed him. Eddie's stories became public knowledge and found a response in hearts of many thousands of fans. When he arrived at the Olympics, he was greeted at the airport like a rock star. It was there that Eddie first learned that he was nicknamed Eagle. I fly into Canada and see a huge banner that says "Welcome Eddie the Eagle." The interview caused a stir. Suddenly I heard a nickname, press conferences, and everything Edwards recalls. It's not surprising that special attention was paid to the competition with Edwards' participation. He competed in jumping from their 70-meter and 90-meter springboards, and while in the first discipline Eddie managed to practice more or less seriously than from the large springboard, according to his admission, he jumped 5 or 6 times before the Olympics. The fans understood that they shouldn't expect miracles in terms of athletic results from Eddie and were only worried that the British would land normally and not to get hurt. He coped with the task brilliantly and landed both jumps quite clearly, but Edwards was solely lacking in range. He lost to absolute everyone, and visually his jumps compared to all other participants looked at least funny. However, this circumstance did not dampen Eddie's mood at all, who fulfilled his dream and competed at the Olympics. Journalists did not give him access, and the head of the organizing committee of the 1988 Games, Frank King, even mentioned Eddie at the closing ceremony of the Olympics. "You have captured your hearts and filled us with memories. Some of you broke world records, many set personal bests, and some of you even soared like an eagle," said Frank King. "I wish I could say I flew like an eagle, but probably I was more like an ostrich," Edwards self-critically commented on King's words after the end of the games. After Calgary, Eddie's sports career did not last long. Not all officials of the International Olympic Committee were delighted with the British performance. Edwards' haters in high places lobbied for changes to the selection rules for the games, seriously tightened the criteria for admission to the Olympics. It was almost impossible for Eddie to complete them, especially since old injuries began to bother him. Thus, already in 1989, Eddie left professional sports. In the early years, the sky jumper felt great. He was invited to all kinds of shows and official events, paid more motivational speeches, and signed advertising contracts with him. The money was in perfect order until Eddie lost more of his savings in the early 90s due to the collapse of the trust fund in which he had invested. But Edwards, hardened by difficulties and hardships, was not particularly bothered by this. He started to become a lawyer, tried to start a singing career, wrote an autobiographical book, and continued to travel the world with public appearances. In England, we don't care if you win. It's great if you manage to who win, but we also appreciate those who don't. Losers are people who never get off their butts. Anyone who tried to do something succeeded, Eddie shared. A new round of popularity for the British occurred in 2016 when he featured film Eddie the Eagle starring Taron Egerton and Hugh Jackman was released. The film received a large number of positive reviews from film critics. Edwards himself liked it and collected $46 million at the box office worldwide, an amount twice the film's budget. As for the sports loser Eddie, he continues to get a thrill from life in his huge awkward glasses with a constant smile on his face. Eddie is still basking in the glory of fame, often becoming a guest on entertainment shows and given a large number of interviews. His fate was much more successful than that of his conditional competitor, the Finn Matti Nukkonen, who excelled on both heels at the games in Calgary. Stay safe and stay tuned. Oh. 1, 2, 3. You can just get the thrill from my job. At the 1988, but we take part.